Okay. Hi, I'm Deirdre. And I have a short story that I'll share with you about my mum and dad. So my mum is 83 in October, at the end of October. My dad is 87, and they were both very, very unwell. 7 years ago, in 2017, I think it's 7 years, my brother passed away from terminal lung cancer, and my mum had a breakdown, an emotional and physical breakdown the day he died. She didn't cope, which is a fair thing. I reckon I would not cope as well. But as a consequence of that massive breakdown she had, her stomach constricted, and it never worked properly. And what happened is within days, she started with having really chronic diarrhea. And over time, the chronic diarrhea just got worse and worse until she was getting, she couldn't leave the house. She ended up with 2 big blockages in her bowel. Over the time, she has been to doctors. She's done everything. And in actual fact, they told her that it was her mental health that was causing all of this. They made her think so she was crazy. They sent her to psychologists, psychiatrists, everything. Told her they didn't know what was wrong, didn't know what was going on. She ended up going to a naturopath. So the naturopath was doing everything they could to help clear her bowel. They did this testing on her stomach and said, your stomach is supposed to respond this way. She went to the naturopath because the doctors told her that her bowel and her stomach had stopped working. Her liver was toxic and she was losing her life force, the doctor's words, and that she wasn't to do anything. She's a carer for my dad. So she went to the naturopath. The naturopath did these tests on her stomach and said, when we do this, whatever poking it is in your tummy is supposed to respond this way. Your stomach doesn't move. You've got these 2 big blockages, which they'd already scanned, they already knew about. But then the naturopath could actually feel them in her abdomen. And she said, we've got to get these out. And this is what's causing, the liver is toxic and it's shutting down because of this bowel not working. The liver apparently goes in and sucks nutrients out of the bowel during the night when we sleep. So it was sucking up all this toxic waste, and the liver was getting poisoned. I had gone over to mum and dad's place. My dad's just recently been diagnosed with dementia. Dad is, when he was sleeping at night, I'll say use the word was because it's not happening anymore. He was, mum would wake up in the morning, or she wouldn't wake up in the morning. She would be trying to defend herself during the night because he would be hitting her. And because when he was asleep, he was thrashing. My dad was having seizures during the night, all these terrible things, very restless. And we set up another room for mum, but dad was so distressed with mum sleeping in another room. She had to stay in the room with him because she was scared that he was going to fall over looking for her during the night. So it was just a really terrible situation. I went over to mum and dad's place, and mum was sitting on the couch, and we'd already been going over and cooking meals for her. And I went, holy dooly, I'm going to have to come and start sleeping over and staying at mum and dad's place because this is terrible. It was the day that I picked up my PHIX, first day I picked it up ever. I hadn't even had any yet. And I was going, I don't know why I did it. But anyway, I was sitting there going, well, mum and dad, maybe you should just take 7 of these, just give them a whirl. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, don't be such an idiot. Give them a whole box. So I gave mum and dad a box of the PHIX. So mum and dad and Peter and I, we started, because I'd already signed up with the fuel tabs. So we had the 60. We didn't have 72, we had 60. I gave 30 to mum and dad. I gave 30 to Peter and I, and I'd already signed Peter up, and I knew I had his product coming. So I felt really confident that we'd all get it in time to continue on, which did, thank goodness. So we all started, Peter started this following day, but mum and dad and we all started right then and there. And over this time, so that's 17 days ago, 3rd of September, we all started, mum, dad and I. Peter started on the 4th of September. But the change in my parents is so mind-blowing that my brain has had trouble believing what I was seeing. So mum by the Saturday, so that was on the Tuesday, by the Saturday she passed the first blockage in her bowel. It was the only thing she did different, and her diarrhea stopped. The liquid, because it wasn't even like what you'd call, Mum was having to have showers up to 10 times a day because it was literally just water, liquid. But they call it overflow. So she continued on, and then what happened was she started having 4 days no diarrhea, no overflow, and then 3 days with the overflow. So but the second blockage is moving down around the bowel. She's still working with the naturopath. She's still taking all her stuff from the naturopath. She massages her stomach every night with castor oil and does all the good stuff right. This is the only thing she added in different. And my brother, anyway, then I'll talk about Dad. So Dad was, I'm sure all of us have seen people with dementia nowadays. He was extremely tottery. I still want to say he is. He is not anymore. He was extremely tottery. We were so scared he was going to fall over all the time. And he's so bloody stubborn. He wouldn't use a walker or a walking stick. And you'd just be like watching him, just like waiting, when we're going to call the ambulance because he's had a big fall. Anyway, so, and you know, when from the knees down, when they get all that dry, scaly skin and it's all really red and inflamed in the circulation, that's nearly gone. It's nearly gone. I was there yesterday and I'm looking at his legs, and you know what he says to me? He's such a challenging man. He goes, now he's been using castor oil on his legs for months, and he goes, I'm using the castor oil on my legs. And I'm like, yeah, Dad, okay, that's really great. Keep using the castor oil.
Wow.
But yeah, but Dad was so passionate about wanting to get better. He was just in one of his moods yesterday, which was good because he hasn't had one of his moods for a while because he's been in such a decline. That he decided he was going to take 3 a day. I'm like, Mom, don't let him have 3 a day. It's wasting the product because he doesn't need 3. It's not, you may as well just squirt it down the sink. So I made Mum confiscate them so he couldn't actually access them himself, and they were handed to him. And then the other thing is he didn't remember if he'd taken them or not. So I went and visited Mum and Dad yesterday, and to see him with my own eyes, because my brother called me and he goes, Deirdre, I went and saw Mum and Dad. And I went, oh yeah. And he goes, I had to ring up Lyndall, which is one of our other sisters. He goes, because I couldn't believe what was going on. I couldn't believe it. Dad was engaging in the conversation. Mum looks like as though she's got her sparkle back. Dad was walking around doing stuff, and they're gardening, you know, like 2 weeks ago, they couldn't, you know, like we were bringing food in for them, so we knew that they were eating. And because they were, you know, like we're all, Dean's been very instrumental in helping Mum and Dad get organised with getting all the house set up for, you know, when they put all the rails and getting, you know, like the OzCat done or whatever it's called, which is basically to get the support from the government to have carers come into the house and help look after them. So Dean's been my younger brother, and he's been the one who's been managing that and organising that. So he goes in and sees my parents regularly, and he couldn't believe he hadn't seen them for the 2 weeks. And he goes, I didn't recognise Mum and Dad. I couldn't believe it. So I rang Lyndall and said, what's going on with Mum and Dad? Why are they looking so good? And Lyndall said, oh, they're on this PHIX. You should ring Deirdre and let her know what you saw, what you experienced. So he rang me and he goes, I don't know what that stuff is. He goes, but whatever it is, don't ever let them stop taking it. And I went, I won't, don't worry. I went and saw Mum and Dad myself yesterday, and I was saying to Leanne and Julie yesterday, I said, I think Mum kind of walks the tightrope of, thank God Eddie's getting better, because he was just sitting there and he wasn't engaging. He was in a really, really deep funk. He just not the father that you remember. He was declining very, very fast. And now he's back being, you know, engaging in conversation, being a pain in the ass again, doing all this stuff. And I'm like, Mum, are you sure? You sure you want to keep giving Dad PHIX?
Wow.
But she does, because she doesn't want to see him suffering, right? but they are really excited because they hadn't been able to really leave the house.
Yeah.
And now mum's going, imagine we're going to be able to start going out to dinners and lunches and we can start doing stuff again. And so they've got this life, you know, like this joy back in their life.
Hope.
And yeah, you know, so that alone, like that, I don't care if no one puts themselves on it, just put your parents on it for God's sakes. Do you know what I mean? Because I can't believe the change. And I just said to mum, I said, what is your life going to look like in 6 months' time, mum? Imagine. And you should see how much, like she's just got this belly now, all of the weight. She certainly didn't have weight on, but she had a lot of fluid on.
Yeah.
And so it's all coming off. And so she now just looks like this skinny woman with this round tummy. She looks pregnant. But that will go because that's all around that bowel issue.
Yeah.
So I am like, I've had a few good cries over that, let me just say. Yeah. So that's my story.